Here's a guy who thinks he's easily refuted atheism with a bunch of ignorant nonsense.
Do we have any atheists in the crowd? Stop it!
Stop what? You don't actually have to do anything to be an atheist. If you aren't currently believing in a god, you're an atheist. What you really want me to do is start it. And by it, I mean believing in a god.
I was originally a Christian. I was raised Christian, and then I started to notice like a lot of inconsistencies in the Bible. And the one that got me, which I'm sure you'll scream about, is evolution. Mostly because like there are libraries upon libraries of papers that scientists have written saying, hey, evolution is a thing. And then people say, but the Bible says it's not! And I'm just like,
there's lots of scientists who say it's not a thing too, you know.
No, there aren't. There are a few, but none of them are taken seriously.
No, there are scientists that say that evolution...
There's lots of scientists...
But they're not respected in their field.
No, there's problems with Darwinian evolution. Darwin thought the cell was simple.
That's moving the goalpost. The issue is whether evolution is a thing, and Soapbox Preacher Guy is pointing out problems specifically with classical Darwinian evolution. Yes, the theory of evolution has done a lot of, well, evolving over the last 160 years. However, that doesn't help this dude's case. This dude is trying to make the case for creationism, and while we know that Darwin got some things wrong, nothing he got wrong in any way confirms creationism.
That it was just a bunch of amino acids that fell together in a primordial soup. But one cell requires a genetic code, because the genetic code tells the cell how to make the proteins that are necessary for its survival and protein synthesis. So you cannot have even a single cell without a genetic code. And that genetic code requires an intelligent mind. It can't happen by just time and chance.
False dichotomy. A mind and time and chance are not the only two options. The first cell evolved from protocellular biological chemistry by unintelligent but still non-random processes. It was a product of neither a mind nor chance.
It does not talk about where life comes from, it talks about what happens after...
No, the book was called The Origin of Species. The Origin of Species. Yeah.
It's clear that this guy hasn't read The Origin of Species if he thinks it's about the origin of life. The point of the book is to explain biological diversity rather than the origin of biology per se. As science continues to grow and to understand the complexities of the cell, Darwinian evolution is outdated. Yes, it is, but that doesn't mean that creationism is some new state-of-the-art theory. On the contrary, it's even more outdated than Darwin's conception of evolution.
Yeah, it's not a simple cell that can just... Life isn't easy. Life isn't simple. But Darwin didn't know these things. Darwin didn't have any comprehension of these things. The only reason they say billions of years is to make it comprehensible that it could slowly evolve. We have T-Rex cells, or T-Rex bones with soft tissue.
Yes, soft tissue in the right conditions can be preserved for millions of years. I'll put a link in the description to an awesome Tony Reed video explaining how this is possible.
Soft tissue from T-Rex! No, if it's fossilized, it's not a soft tissue.
No, that's...
Talking about like blood cells. No, it's true. They discovered it just a few years ago. You can Google it. Get up to date with your science. We have soft tissue of T-Rex. That doesn't survive billions of years.
Of course it doesn't survive billions of years. The T-Rex didn't exist billions of years ago.
That doesn't survive millions of years.
Yeah, it does.
Oh, you've been sold a fairy tale from God haters. You've been sold a fairy tale from God haters.
So all the Christians who believe in evolution, like Ken Miller, are God haters?
But hey,
Your book is literally studied by mythologists.
even if the Bible was wrong, which it's not, even if the Bible was made up, which it's not, we still know that there's a God. Just by looking at creation, you see a solar system, an ecosystem, a digestive system, your favorite of all, the reproductive system. And systems are indicative of order, and order is indicative of intelligent mind.
No, it isn't. This is another guy who thinks that the default state of reality must be chaos and only a conscious mind can put it in order. If order in the universe needs to be maintained by a mind, what is the mind that maintains the order in the mind that maintains the order in the universe? Must there be some super god to put your god's mind in order? If the order of your god's mind can just exist on its own, why can't order in the universe just exist on its own?
We see the intelligent mind of God all throughout his creation.
Okay, I've got
Honestly,
something for
if
you
Jesus
then.
Christ loved everyone like you're saying, none of this would matter.
Well, he does love, but you have to make a choice to repent or not.
Why? Why is receiving grace contingent upon repentance?
I'm going to pull out one biological example. You say that we were designed by an intelligent being. So we have a nerve called it's the nerve for our larynx. And instead of going straight from the brain to our throat, it actually goes from the brain all the way down.
And up again,
yeah. A few major arteries and then comes back up to our throat. What intelligent designer would do that?
Just because you don't know doesn't mean there's not one. Okay, the appendix they thought was useless. They thought we evolved out of our need for the appendix. They used to cut out the appendix. Can you believe it? People used to have their appendix removed. It's part of your immune system. You have an immune system. Your appendix is part of your immune system. It kicks in primarily when you have a cold or a flu, and there's bad side effects if you have it removed. They used to think it was useless. Just because you don't know the function doesn't mean there isn't one.
No, but if there's no evidence of a function, there's no reason to believe there is one. It's entirely reasonable to be skeptical that an organ has a function if there's no evidence of a function.
There's a function to everything you see. I mean, everything. The seasons that change, the hunger pains that you feel, the sex drive, the sex urges. There's a function to everything in creation.
Everything has a consequence, but one shouldn't confuse consequences with functions. The fact that something has an effect does not mean that it was deliberately created by a conscious mind for the purpose of having that effect.
Nothing is useless because it was all designed by an intelligent mind. Not to mention, by definition, the first cause must be self-existent and infinite.
Why must it be infinite? Why does something self-existent have to be conscious and loving as you conceive your God to be?
Because anything finite had a beginning and needed a cause. That's law of cause and effect.
There's no such thing as the law of cause and effect. No scientist recognizes this to be a law of physics. In fact, it's been known since Hume pointed it out that we can't be certain that causation is even a real thing, let alone a law.
So anything that had a beginning needs a cause. So the first cause must be self-existent, infinite, or else it would need a cause itself.
Again, why would it have to be infinite?
So anything finite is proof of the infinite. Everything is proof of God. An atheist is proof of God. Charles Darwin is proof of God. Richard Dawkins is proof of God. Anything finite proves the infinite. Anything finite.
How? This seems like a total non sequitur to me. What logical problem is there with a non-contingent finite thing?
So we know through a plethora of evidence that there's a God. Creation, design, DNA, genetic coding. There's an overwhelming amount of evidence for God. The problem is, sinners just want to do whatever they want to do. Get drunk, get high, get laid.
What's your point? If there were undeniable evidence of a God and I still wanted to sin, I'd just sin. I wouldn't deny the evidence, I'd acknowledge it and go ahead and sin anyway.
You have the knowledge of the world at your fingertips, and the most common search on the internet is porno. You could be learning Greek, you could be learning Latin, you could be learning anything that you want, and you're looking at MILFs.
Learning Greek and Latin is not so time-consuming that one cannot also make time for MILFs.
See, but the second we start to learn about science and evolution, suddenly God says, oh, wait, don't learn about that. That's what we don't want you to know about.
Well, there's lots of great scientists who have given many great critiques of Darwin's theory of evolution. Nothing in science is unanimous. Not everyone agrees on anything.
Not everyone agrees on anything, but that doesn't mean that your bullshit should therefore be taken seriously.
You know, you guys are just like the blind leading the blind. The scientists are the new priest. All you say is, oh, science says it, science says it, science, the scientist. You know, You got blind faith in science.
The whole point of empirical science is to actually look at whether a claim is true. What would it even mean to say that someone has blind faith in actually going out and looking at things? That's the opposite of blind faith.
Hey, I just want to do one thing. If I can do one thing, I'd be happy. I want to convince you that you are a hell-deserving sinner.
How are you going to convince me that anything I've done is deserving of eternal torment? I don't see how anyone could deserve that. Even the Old Testament doesn't seem to endorse such a view of justice. The Old Testament says that people should receive an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. It endorses proportionality. Eternal torment for an eye and eternal torment for a tooth is not consistent with even this biblical standard.
Now, you have a free will. I choose not to sin. I used to sin every day. I used to be a drug dealer. I used to get high and drunk every day. I used to commit all sorts of felonies and crimes. But when I turned from sin and turned to God, my life was changed.
But what's free will?
Well, free will is the choice to obey God or not. Free will is the choice to do good or evil.
What do you mean when you say that this choice is free? The idea of free will seems to me to mean that our choices are, to at least some degree, chance events. It is to say that they are uncaused, that they are not determined by prior causes. But to say that our choices are not determined by prior causes is to say that they happen for no reason. If our choices happen for no reason, then we have no control over them.
Well, without the ability to sin, you don't have a free will. And without a free will, you can't love.
Why not? Maybe this guy thinks that love which is determined by prior causes is not really love. But why wouldn't it be? It seems to me that this is the most valuable conception of love. If you love someone because their virtues deterministically caused you to love them, then that love is meaningful. It means that the person is actually worthy of love. If, however, love is uncaused, which is to say that it happens for no reason, then it's meaningless. If love isn't causally determined by the virtues of the person being loved, or something, then that love is a meaningless random occurrence. So not only do I think you can, in fact, love if you don't have free will, it is only if that love is causally determined rather than free that it has any meaning or value.
So God took a risk when He gave us a free will. He wanted a loving universe.
Can you define God?
The infinite, self-existent.
I'm sure this guy believes that there is more to his concept of God than merely infinite and self-existent, because those characteristics don't denote intelligence, consciousness, lovingness, or any of the many other attributes that he is depicted as having in the Bible.
So God took a risk. He wanted a universe full of love. That means we have free will. But with free will comes the possibility of sin.
Does your God have free will? If he does that mean that it is possible for him to sin? If you believe that your God has free will, but that it is not possible for him to sin, then you don't really believe that free will brings with it the possibility of sin. If a God can be a being with free will who is not at risk of sinning, why couldn't he create people with free will but who are not at risk of sinning?
I always think of could you imagine if Mary would have been caught cheating on her husband back in the day? She would have been killed. So maybe she's just like, damn, I fucked up. And she looks around, she's like, it's God's baby. Fuck, it's God's baby.
Yeah, but
That's how she avoided dying.
But there was a prophecy in the Old Testament long before Jesus existed that the virgin will give birth.
What's your point? First of all, it's my understanding that virgin is a mistranslation, and secondly, even if that translation is accurate, wouldn't it be a simpler explanation to say that she lied and her lie coincidentally happened to match prophecy? Or maybe it was even the case that she got the idea to tell that lie from the prophecy. These are clearly more probable scenarios than an actual virgin birth.
And Jesus wasn't just a bastard child. He healed the sick. He cast out devils. He walked on water. There were eyewitnesses who saw it. They recorded it.
Where did they record it? We have no good reason to believe that any of the accounts of anything Jesus did were recorded by people who were actual eyewitnesses.